Yo, I'm Red Rabbit Riven. I'm not really sure how good this guide is going to be because I'm not a YouTuber really. I just noticed that all the other guides on YouTube for Riven were really just made for content, as those creators, they've clearly never mained Riven, and the guides made by actual Riven players just focused on combos, which I don't really think offers anything to anyone really wanting to play her. This guide will go over absolutely everything in depth that you'd want to know if you really want to learn her. If you want to know any credentials for me, I've been pretty casual for most of my league life because I'm just a busier person than it takes to get like Challenger rank 1 or whatever. But I did reach Diamond with Riven on PC. I've been playing her since 2013 and I've hit top 3 Rivens on my server in Wild Rift. Only playing like 2 seasons seriously, and I'm the only one that doesn't play in a 5 stack in like the top 20. So yeah, let's get into it. So Riven's identity and why would you want to play her? So Riven is a really rewarding champion to learn due to her skill ceiling and versatility. She's a jack of all trades bruiser that's basically decent at everything once mastered. She can duel, split push, side lane, team fight, dive, peel, and she's decent in all stages of the game. She plays more like a fighting game character than pretty much the rest of the champion roster. In Wild Rift, she's always been way better as a jungler, whereas on PC, she's been a top laner for the last like 14, 15 years since she was created, until really recent changes on PC. She's a great snowballing champion who can abuse her map mobility and the enemy's mistakes harder than most other champions can, which takes time and practice to really take advantage of. Play her in the jungle before lane, in my opinion, so that you can get used to her abilities first, since she can be so volatile and vulnerable in lane, especially in Wild Rift. She is a worse laner in Wild Rift for sure than on PC. Will mostly go over Baron lane in this guide, but she can go mid lane. I play her wherever. I play her ADC and support. I love it, but focus on the entry level stuff first. Strengths and weaknesses. I'll go in depth here. I'll repeat myself a bit from what I was saying earlier, but yeah, with just more explanation. So what Riven does better than any other melee carries is her mobility combined with her AoE in team fights. You'll easily be just killing the enemy support while you're focusing on the ADC with Riven. You'll kill them both in the same win slash after you hit an ADC with a combo. Her flanking is really strong due to her mobility across the map, giving her quick access to team fights from side lanes. Her map mobility gives her the ability to be pretty suffocating to play against if she's doing it correctly. Due to all of that, she's pretty snowbally, has a high potential to abuse leads than a lot of other champions. She's hard to match in the side lane and split push late game because if she's warding, she's pretty hard to catch with her mobility. She can easily catch out other people, and you can use her map mobility to power farm side lanes and then just go right to team fights at the right time. A lot of good split pushers don't really have that option. They have to walk all the way. Riven can hop walls. She has the 4 dashes, and by late game her cooldown is really low, so they're up pretty often. For weaknesses, I'll start with the skill floor. She's really punishing to play when you're new to her, more so in lane than in jungle though, by a lot. She's a lot about timing and knowing when she's able to go in and not waste cooldowns. Wasting one of her 4 dashes can be the difference maker in getting you killed once and snowballed on for the rest of the lane. That's true for a lot of champions. You make one mistake and then you get put behind. But due to her lack of sustain and her reliance on being ahead, it's more punishing for her than almost every other champion, in my opinion. She's massively nerfed by her ability to int as well for less experienced players. It's like Yasuo. Yasuo just goes in, goes 0-10. You guys have all had the 0-10 Yasuo. They just keep going in. Riven's like that. You want to go in and try and outplay your opponent, right? But Yasuo brings a win wall to his team, always has huge value. He gets his ultimate's armor pen. Riven has nothing like that. No true damage, no mixed damage, no percent health damage, no armor pen, no sustain. The mobility is really nice, but once, say, a Darius gets a lead on Riven with some armor in lane and he has Ghost, he's just going to run you down for the rest of the game. It's going to become a huge gap just off one mistake. And about her mobility, it is easily S tier in the sense of playing the map, but it's actually hugely overrated by everyone in team fights. It's really frustrating when she can take advantage of it. When a Riven runs you down with her dashes, it looks way stronger than it is. It's really strong on the map. But once you play her, she's really limited by it in more packed skirmishes, busier team fights. Riven is completely reliant on flash in late game team fights. Once players start to get slightly competent, especially so. If you use your 4 dashes to reach like a Caitlyn, even without the Caitlyn having a support with her, you'll just be netted away from. You'll reach her, she'll net away, you're slowed, and she's running away at that point. If there's a support there, you'll be instantly peeled, you'll be stunned or whatever the support has on top of Kate's net, and then you'll be trapped by Caitlyn as well. You'll just die. Another rotation of dashes won't even save you at that point. The same goes for a lot of ADCs and supports. Like, you use all your dashes to approach a Vayne, she condemns you. What have you got? You've got no dashes left, you're stuck. And then if you had them again, she has a tumble, she has an invis, whatever. Without flash, it's up to them to make the positioning mistake. Otherwise, Riven is pretty kiteable. If you're seeing Riven kill your backline without flash, your backline overstepped. It's not because Riven is broken. Yeah, again, you can say this about a lot of backline divers. Tryndamere has 6 seconds of invulnerability though, and a ranged slow. Yi has meditate to buy time, a targeted blink that goes over projectiles on top of his speed as well, where he can't be slowed. Yasuo, so he can't be kited either. Yasuo can pull back with wind wall if he fails his dive, hit his tornado from a range behind the wind wall, and then go back in. And all the champions I just mentioned have better tools at dealing with a front line than Riven does. They have true damage. They have steroids from like crit, just armor pen, whatever. Riven doesn't have any of that. If she wastes anything and is in the middle of a team fight with no cooldowns, she's dead. You have to know when to go in. It doesn't matter how good your combos are, but with flash, she's one of the best divers in the game, so don't worry, we'll go over that. Runes and summoners in depth. Like I've been saying, Riven absolutely relies on flash. People have tried to justify going things like Smite Ignite because of her mobility. But yeah, maybe it'll help her snowball a little bit more early game, but I don't even think so. You need flash more to snowball early game. And that will massively nerf her late game without flash. The Ignite isn't going to be worth it. Just take flash every game. For secondary, obviously Smite if you're jungling, but for lane, there's a bit more to it. Usually Riven will always want Ignite to try and push a lead. As I've mentioned, she's one of those champions that really want to be ahead or need to come back if behind. You can take teleport in some of the harder matchups to try and neutralize the lane, but you'll also want Ignite against some of those to have a better chance at coming back, killing them when they make a mistake, killing them with the help of a jungler. So it's up to you at that point. That'll come with experience. I even take Exhaust sometimes against picks like Tryndamere or a Yi jungle to just help neutralize them later when they're in those, invulnerable states or Yi's ulting, whatever. Depends on your confidence in the lane matchup there as well. It really just comes down to preference. To make it easy while you're learning her, just take Ignite, go from there. You can't go wrong with Ignite on Riven. For runes, I'll cover jungling first. You really have 2 options, yellow primary and green secondary, or green primary and yellow secondary. No other option for jungling. Some players used to run transcendence, Jesus, what a stupid word, man. Transcendence second for the ability haste, but this rune is overrated on jungle Riven. She gets enough haste from Triforce and the new Spear of Shojin and all the other items that she builds, really. And the value overgrowth brings is just way better, especially for junglers in general. So I'll go over the one I like less first. So for yellow primary, it's your choice between Triumph and Gathering Storm. Middle damaging rune, whatever, depends on the enemy comp. And then take Alacrity. Triumph is better against teams you think you'll be resetting through, and Gathering Storm is better when you think the game's going to go late. You always want Alacrity. You need that ability to power farm that it gives you. Always take Overgrowth secondary. It's just the best. It just plain is. What I prefer though is going green primary and yellow secondary. And it's what KKM, the rank 1 Chinese Riven, goes with. He's probably the best Riven in the world on Wild Rift. You take Nullifying Orb, Bone Plating, and Overgrowth primary, and Alacrity secondary from the yellow tree. They're all essential, not interchangeable. What makes this tree so great is how much extra damage Riven will block when going in, letting her face tank engages, her own deep dives a lot easier, river skirmishes, whatever. Bone Plating's just great on junglers because it rarely procs to a random spell. Like, you take it in lane and you'll get poked and you lose Bone Plating, On a jungler, 90% of the time, you have it for an important all-in. For runes while laning, there is a lot more to go into. Riven honestly makes good use of every tree in lane, and top Rivens on every server, they just run every page with success. I personally think there's 2 best pages. Her absolute best 2 runes as a laner are laser. That's funny. Lena are second wind because she has no sustain, right? She needs it to unpunish her for any mistake you can make, any poke you can make. Sudden impact, which brings insane value with her kit and winds up dealing thousands of damage every game. Insane value in lane and late game. Because these two are her best, you swap between green and red for the primary page depending on what your matchup is, in my opinion. At the moment, I believe green primary is the pick when you can make good use of Perseverance, the tenacity rune when you get crowd controlled. But red primary is better if you can't. For green primary, you want to run Courage of the Colossus or Nullifying Orb, kind of preference, depending on how much you can proc your crowd control for Courage of the Colossus. Second wind, always. Well, yeah, I'll talk more about that later, but pretty much always. And then Perseverance third, if you can make use of it. Second impact, secondary. For red primary, Sudden Impact, Empowered Attack, Ingenious Hunter, and Second Wind, secondary. Empowered Attack just helps with your trades in lane. Ingenious Hunter winds up being a pretty great rune on Riven late game because it'll, well, even mid game, it'll allow you to proc things like Eclipse more often, Triforce more often if you build it in lane, Sundered Sky more often, your boot enchants, which are all really, really important on Riven depending on which one you take. They're all important. So, yeah, we take these runes because they're the perfect mix of covering her weaknesses in lane while boosting her strengths, keeping in mind she functions best with a lead and that she's vulnerable to crowd control. When you're confident on her, bone plating does work opposed to second wind in some matchups, but I still always prefer second wind on computer. Bone plating would work against those matchups where they like have an all-in combo on you and you want to block it, but one thing goes wrong and it's wasted. Second wind is never wasted. It's always a high value rune on a champion like Riven with no sustain. You got runes like Gathering Storm that a lot of people run. It should be great on her in theory, but she loves AD, right? But since it doesn't help her laning strength or cover a weakness, it's not as valuable. It comes online later, but you want to get a lead. So she scales okay, but you want to focus on getting that lead. And even then, like, even late game, when Gathering Storm comes online, Sudden Impact will hit so hard still. Huge damage boost, true damage, and it'll give you a speed up, help with her kite ability. It's just going to bring more value throughout the whole game by a lot. Another popular laning rune is Transcendence. I said it right that time. While it's amazing for Riven on paper, again, she loves AD and cooldown reduction, ability haste. But she should always be rushing Eclipse in lane, mid lane, top lane, ADC lane, whatever. She should always be rushing that, have ability haste components. That's all she needs to unlock most of her first ability's potential so she can Q extend, which I'll talk about later in the video if you don't know what that is. She also doesn't really make use of Transcendence's passive. Her first ability should almost always be off cooldown instantly when used correctly. So Transcendence's cooldown refund mechanic, it's pretty useless for her most of the time, especially compared to other champions anyway. So items, and we'll go a bit in depth here. She can make use of a ton of items because of her versatility. But the good news is that a cookie cutter build works really well on Riven no matter what. You don't have to stress too much about items until later on. So in jungle, always rush Trinity Force. Helps a ton with her clear speed. The early components are decent for jungling. I hate them in lane, but they're pretty good for jungling. And you can go with Death's Dance second, or as of this patch, Spear of Shojin. I love Spear of Shojin second. It's an even bigger power farming item. Gives her more ability haste and Death's Dance by a little bit. However, I'd always go with Death's Dance second against 4+ AD. Depends on what you need against the other comp. Now, once you have 2 items, though, you don't just get, for your third item, the opposite item. You don't get Death's Dance third if you got Spear of Shojin second. Because generally here, this is where you'll need Armor Pen or more resistances. Depends what you're versing. Mortal Reminder against healing champions, Serilda's Grudge if they don't have healing, but they have like tanky champions. Grudge of Slow is also obviously great when you need to catch a certain squishy champion that can kite you. You need to play it by ear. Maybe you'll need an early Maw of Malmortius if they have a 3-man AP comp and a Cogmore ADC or something like that. Meaning your first 3 items could look like Trinity Force, Spear of Shojin, Maw versus an AP heavy team, or Triforce, Death's Dance, Mortal Reminder versus a heavy AD team with decent healing and some armor on them. Death's Dance third if they're full AD and they have no tanks, you know. yeah, it just depends. If you want an easy to use cookie cutter build, just go Triforce, Death Dance, and then an armor penetration item. It's just always going to work. Other core items to add later are Sundered Sky, Serpent's Fang versus shielding, which is especially strong when, as of this video being made. Guardian Angel, if you need to survive a dive, or I rush it third or fourth if their team has a shit ton of AD. Eclipse or Dustblade are good last items jungling if you want more damage. I've bought it last item, Eclipse, and then randomly just one-shot the enemy team when I didn't even think I could. So those are good options too. Sterax if you need to be tankier and you're versing heavy CC. She can make use of all of it. Your game knowledge will matter more here than anything else. The best boot enchants are Gore Drinker, Quicksilver Sash, and Jonya's. It's just preference. Again, Jonya's to survive when they have strong engage or when you are the win condition with your diving. If you need to dive in, do a lot of damage, and survive, get Jonya's. If they have heavy crowd control, get QSS on your boots. And if you don't really need either of them, Gore Drink is just great. It's just always solid if you don't need the other two. Extra damage, healing, wave clear, just depends on what you feel you need that game. For laning, Trinity Force is not the rush. It's a much less useful item. I see so many Rivens build at top Rivens as well. Rush, Eclipse, the Triforce components are average in lane. Sheen is good, but that's it. Eclipse's components lets you reach 20 haste, gives more AD. Triforces will give you 20 haste too, but like attack speed versus AD, no. Go for Eclipse. And it's a cheaper item than Triforce as well, so you'll spike earlier. And it gives you a better ability to deal with tanks, which is one of Riven's bigger weaknesses in lane. That said, you still want Eclipse versus Squishies as well. It's just always the first, even if you support Riven, get Eclipse first with your support item. Triforce can work second. It's a bit better with Ingenious Hunter for the Sheen proc cooldown, but it's really not as helpful for team fighting as Death's Dance. If you're taking Ingenious Hunter and you plan to split push often, and they don't have like 4 to 5 AD, Triforce second can be a good buy. Otherwise, just drop the item entirely when laning. I would get it with those conditions still, but yeah, it's definitely not essential. The other core items pretty much remain the same that I mentioned earlier. The Sundered Sky, the armor penetration items, etc. For boots in lane, take Vent Boots when you feel like you need the damage, I guess. Resistance boots, depending on the enemy team comp. But for jungle, you almost always want Vent Boots. Sometimes when I'm jungling and they've got a 5 AD team, I'll take Vent Boots and then swap to armor later, or I will just take armor boots if that's just going to stump the game. That will be a on-the-fly game knowledge decision by you as well. All right, matchup sheet. This is my matchup sheet for Baron lane. I want to note that matchups are generally a bit harder on Wild Rift than it is on PC, so some have been bumped up. The reason is that Riven may be a bit easier to play on Wild Rift, but she's way easier to punish and stat check. Plus, just a weaker laner overall than on PC. On PC, she's a lot better at avoiding bad matchups with her map play. But it's just much harder to do that in Wild Rift. She can go off and proxy farm waves, and she can roam better on PC. In Wild Rift, she's a bit more locked in. Feel free to comment if you want to ask about a certain matchup. This list is assuming Riven and her opponent are competent. A competent Riven can run through all of these champs until the Krylot tier if they don't play it well. As an example, I've won all of my Kalista matchups, but I've felt every Kalista I've versed has just been cocky and didn't manage the wave well, so I capitalized on that. If they had, I don't know how it would have gone. I think it would have been a lot more unplayable, so your mileage may vary. All right, mechanics, abilities, combos. You can find all this stuff in every other Riven guide, really, but I'll go through the important stuff. What I use every game or like 2-3 games. I really want to stress that I don't think specific combos are important on Riven. They're the most talked about thing about the champion, though. It's pretty much her like identity in the public eye. Once you know how your abilities interact with each other, you'll know what to use and when. It really just becomes intuitive. You're much better off learning the other fundamentals of the champion because the combos just come naturally. Using any combo at the wrong time, it's really punishing. It just isn't as big a part of her identity that people make it out to be. Even her own players. It's a bit more important on PC, but even then, the absolute best rank 1 PC Rivens play off of fundamental game knowledge and knowing her limits. They're not doing flashy things every game. So Fundamental first, using your passive between every ability if you can. This should be obvious to a lot of you, but just in case there's any brand new Rivens watching, Riven stores a passive charge with every ability use, making her next auto attack do more damage. She can only store 3 passive charges. There's a timer for these charges. You can upkeep your passive charges to 3 by using an ability when you need to, if you don't need it for anything else. So for example, you're in bush watching them take dragon or baron, you're sitting on 3 passives, you know you want to go in, right? You can't just sit still and wait for the passives to run out. So even if your Q's off cooldown for some reason, just dash with your E. Just dash on the spot, stun on the spot, keep those charges up for when you're going to Q extend, go in later. So your basic bread and butter combo early on would look something like Q1, auto attack, Q2, auto attack, Q3, auto attack, W auto attack. It's just the basic explanation of weaving a passive in between abilities. Dash in target direction setting. For Wild Rift exclusively, this is a big deal. Turn this off. It lets Riven focus her dashes on one target easier. It gives you a more consistent full Q combo. It also stops her from going straight through your target, which can throw you into tower range more often, make it easier for them to dodge your Q3. I've found it really useful because I've all-in champions, they get to 1 HP and then flash behind me to run away. With this setting on, you just Q3 straight on top of them. With it off, I just Q3'd where I was aiming. It's kind of like an aimbot in that sense. So this setting alone has not only increased my DPS by a little bit overall, but it's gotten me kills that otherwise I just wouldn't have gotten. Free kills in those moments. The downside is though, and this is real, a real downside, this setting adds a whole nother skill curve. You're going to have to manually drag your dashes away from enemies every time when you're trying to run away, or you'll accidentally dash in and get yourself killed. It will happen. It's happened to me a lot. You will be a better Riven though for overcoming that. It also makes Q dancing harder, which I'll explain in a bit. Next is Q extending. Always try and extend your Q's timer when possible. This is also called Q delaying. So Q's cooldown starts on the first use, not on the last. Meaning if you Q and wait as long as you can until you Q2, and then do the same before Q3, you'll land your Q3 knock-up and have your full Q3 combo again off cooldown. You should be doing this always. It's extremely strong, and without using it, you'll actually lose like 10% win rate. Not only will you have the full combo off cooldown after you knock up your enemy, which is 2 knock-ups really, but it also means you'll start a fight with 3 passive stacks. It's just crazy level 1 value in lane. The extra CC, the damage, it's essential for late game dives and jungle clear as well. You have to Q extend before your first camp. At about 13 seconds, you cast your first Q. Yeah, it's essential. Q3 flash engage. This one isn't hard. You can flash mid Q3, the knock-up, to make your knock-up pretty much instant, impossible to react to. I've never had this dodged on purpose, only by accident. Brief animation cancelling and double casting. So I'm not going to get too much into this. It's where there's a lot out that are Riven that everyone has covered. So I'll just go over the important stuff that I do often. Sorry. You can chain abilities off of your E, your R1, and your R2. It's called double casting on PC. For example, you can E, R1, Q3 in pretty much one combination. It'll all happen within like a couple, not literally a couple frames, but really fast. You can R1 and then W. It'll cancel your R1 start time. You can R2 and Q in the same motion. It's pretty much 2 abilities worth of damage in one frame. You can E, W, Q. So E allows you to double cast any 2 abilities afterwards, while R1 and R2 can chain into your Q and W. This is where I'd advise you check out other Riven guides based solely on animation cancelling, because it gets a bit deep. But again, you'll feel how the abilities work together pretty easily in practice tool. It's not as complex in Wild Rift as it was in PC. PC Rivens who moved to Wild Rift, they exaggerate its use here. You'll get used to it pretty easily. Wall hopping. So this one's easy. You can Q3 over most walls on the map. Really good for making plays around the map, going from side lane to team fights, whatever. Get used to it in practice tool first. But you can make pretty much every wall that isn't huge and bulky, you know. A bit more of the niche advanced stuff here. Q dancing. I don't see people talk about this one very often, but it's only important in some matchups or against some champions in team fights. You might not even use this once in 10 games. So Q dancing is purposely queuing through or to the side of your enemy still connecting the Qs for the damage, but doing it to make it way harder to hit skill shots. So when you turn that setting off, you're going to have to manually drag it through your enemy or around them. It's hugely important in duels against certain champions like Mordekaiser, Darius, Fiora, you know, dodging that parry because you're moving in unpredictable ways, dodging Darius's pull if you go through him. It might reduce your DPS a little bit while you get used to it, but it massively increases your chances of dodging abilities that would be an instant loss to get hit by. Like, it works with... I've used it a lot against, like, Lee Sin's. Whenever I'm dueling a Lee Sin and I know his Q's up, I'm dancing through him. Every Q, I'm going behind, to the side. I'm not just doing it on the spot. And then leading with R2. So R2 may be an execute, but sometimes you need that upfront damage. You can surprise people with it, get more damage out before like you die maybe to help your team. Maybe you can hit multiple people with it, potentially applying certain effects like Elder Dot, Surreal to Slow. You can R2 into another ability as well. So one common combo is using R2, Flash, and then like Q at the same time. You can extend the R2 with your Flash as well. You R2 and Flash, and the R2's animation will start, you'll Flash, and then the R2 will come out from where you Flash to. So yeah, engaging into a team fight that's already happening that way, you have a big opener of damage coming out when you're R2 flashing, Qing, and you're cutting through a team. You can make that a Q3 as well. Imagine your whole team gets hit by Riven's Wind Slash and knocked up at the same time, especially if they're already all about 70% HP or lower. Still, this may only come up like once every game, maybe second, third game, so it's not super common. The other one is the one-shot combo / the shy combo, if you've heard of that. You can look this up if you want. Better breakdowns out there than what I'll give. You may find different iterations of the combo, but this one is important to know when you need to one-shot an ADC or another squishy target after a dive. You'll want to Q extend, R1, flash, Q3 onto your enemy, instantly W them. This is, I guess, where the combo really starts. So you W, auto attack while they're stunned, Gore Drinker, R2, and Q in the same frame. So R2, Q. This should one-shot every squishy champion in the game if you're doing well and they don't get huge support. If they do survive, you'll have your full Q rotation up again anyway. So again, R1, Flash, Q3, W, AA, Gore Drinker, R2, Q. You don't need Gore Drinker for this, but it's a great part of the combo when you do have it. It just meshes perfectly with it. Alright, jungling with Riven, I'd recommend watching KKM to learn his pathing. I just get bored easily pathing in the jungle, PvEing. When it comes to jungle clearing, I've seen the best junglers mess up their pathing as well, even KKM, costing them like 10 seconds of time. So I do my own less risky pathing, but I wouldn't recommend it. Go learn the fastest way to do it and just don't mess it up. Generally, you want to power farm with Riven and abuse her flash whenever it's up. That's when she's at her scariest. She's not a power farmer like Yi, where you want to farm to 6 items, but yeah, I focus on finding a fight I can win if it's available when my flash is up. If not, I think a lot about power farming. Aim to be as strong as you can be by the first major objective spawn. So if you have Trinity Force and Vamp Boots by first objective spawn, she's gonna roll a team fight at that point. She's great at diving duo lane because of her reset mechanic as well. She's really solid at dueling a lot of junglers early game, but try not to force plays on her because she'll feel pretty bad to play when behind. Use all your dashes to reach a Xin Zhao or something, and you're going to get reamed for it. She has no guaranteed lockdown like a lot of other junglers, no disengage like Xin, not as much comeback power as Yi, no guaranteed lockdown like Vi, so she just has to be ahead. She doesn't offer that much otherwise. Watch Talon WR's jungle videos if you want an in-depth guide on jungling in general. KKM and Talon are way better junglers than me, so there's not much more I can say without being disingenuous, so yeah, check them out. Just minimize your risks and take advantage of the jungle to learn Riven's kit. Now for laning, Riven has an insanely strong level 1, especially so when she's Q extended to keep passive stacks up and to get a free knockup, but overcommitting and dying on her level 1 can pretty much cost you the next 10 minutes of your life. If you're against an oppressive champ like Darius or Fiora, and you've wasted, you've gone in and misplayed in some way and died level 1, it doesn't matter how strong Riven was at level 1, you're behind now, pretty much for good. So try and minimize your risk with her. After level 1, short trades become key and take a good amount of matchup experience using her. So for example, against a champ like Jax, you can walk up, W and auto attack him, and E away. That's a good little trade. If he jumps on you and chases you, first of all, he'll waste his jump damage on your shield, and then you wait out the stun, you can all in him with your Q combo fully up. So you can harass enemies by Q extending, knocking them up, W auto attack, E to disengage. You'll have your Q up if they chase you. But if you do this against the wrong champ like a Darius, he'll pull you back, and now you've only got like 2 dashes to get away from him, and he might have Ghost up. So it just massively depends on the matchups. That depends on what short trades you'll be using. All the Riven trade patterns depend on the enemy champion. You can't mess trades up because of a lack of sustain. Second wind is essential because of this. This is where it is really punishing to play Riven. Riven's level 1, 3, and 5 are stronger than a lot of champs, so sometimes you'll have a specific window in one of those levels that you really want to abuse. Depends on the matchup again. Harass enemies down, minimize mistakes, and then you can abuse those power spikes at the right moment. Riven feels volatile, like you want to go in and fight often, especially when you're mechanically decent with her, but she really can't afford to be volatile. She's too punishing to fall behind on, so coin flipping with her is bad, especially in lane. Play patient. When Riven has a lead, she's great at shoving waves, roaming around the map, suffocating the enemy team. Try to take advantage of this without losing minions, without making mistakes, without overcommitting. Roam with your jungler or to your mid lane when you have those moments available. And about mid lane, Riven's actually a pretty solid mid laner into some melee matchups. She's been considered a counter to things like Katarina, Zed, and Galio for a lot of her life, but the lack of sustain does suck for her against champions in the mid lane that can poke her as well, and Baron lane as well, obviously. So even those 3 champions that I mentioned earlier, they have options against her if they play it right. They can poke her, and she doesn't really have many tools to deal with it if they avoid fighting her. Her early roaming from mid lane, though, into jungle skirmishes is pretty effective. You definitely always want second win when playing with her mid as well. Just make sure you ban Vex. Late game, side lane, team fighting. This is where you really want to abuse Riven's map mobility. You power farm side lanes and you can keep pushing if you feel you can escape the enemy team or duel whoever would try to match you from the enemy team. Or you can push and then hover between the side lane and wherever your team is grouping using her mobility. You still want to always prioritize farm to stay ahead with her. You don't want to fall behind just running around wasting time grouping mid or anything. She's great at catching farm across the map, so make that a priority. If you're not winning team fights, or say you're versing something like a Caitlyn Milio with a Lissandra mid or something, you can just commit to split pushing with her and avoiding team fights where you can. Or you could even burst their jungler instead in team fights, instead of their backlines, so that you can support your team that way. You'll really want to play around your flash cooldown late game because of how much stronger your engage becomes late in those team fights with flash. Otherwise, you'll just get kited. As a rule of thumb, I guess you could commit to more so split pushing when flash is down and team fighting when it's up. You know, as a rule of thumb, general when you're learning her, so that you can find the extended Q3 on top of the backline with flash and without it. Yeah, just stick to splitting. Just be patient. If you can't find an opening with your extended Q3 as well, don't get baited. If you have flash and Q3 ready with an extension, but you can't find an opening, just extend your Q again. It's fine. Just be patient. So the learning process for Riven, pretty much how you want to order it. Start in the jungle to get used to her abilities, mid game and late game as well. She's at her most punishable early game in lane when behind. The jungle will allow you to keep power farming with her ahead or behind and be strong enough to be impactful in team fights even if you don't play perfectly. You can start experimenting with your items once you're comfortable in the jungle. When laning, get used to her short trade combos and pre-plan which patterns you'll need depending on the game and what your matchup is. You can look up PC matchups to get some advice. It won't always be applicable due to her weaker Wild Rift laning, but it can help. You can just ask in the comments if you want any insight from me as well. For countering Riven, this will help you understand her weaknesses a bit, so it'll help you as a Riven player, or if you just hate Riven, you can go off of this. She's a feast or famine champ, so let her get impatient and go for plays that aren't there. If she uses her dashes to reach you, she's really vulnerable. If you put her behind in lane, she's really vulnerable. She often pushes in lane due to her AoE on her abilities, which makes her easy to gank. If she has flash up and she's on your side of the map and she's jungling, if she's good enough, you're vulnerable no matter where you are, even if you're a bit low on HP, so always be aware of that. Riven hates versing early armor due to her only dealing physical damage. Plated steel caps really affect her as well. And exhaust can destroy her dives late game. She can Zhonya's to play around it, but yeah, she can Q3 into a team. If she knocks up and stuns enough people with her ultimate up, she can cut through entire teams. If you're a support and you bring exhaust and you exhaust her Q3 as soon as she flash dives, you've pretty much cut her out of the fight. So that's a good option for supports, ADCs, whoever runs exhaust. So to take away from this, always Q extend. Practice team fighting and laning with her before you care about these fancy combos. The harder combos will just slow down your learning with her early on and are rarely that useful. Team fighting and laning fundamentals have a way higher skill ceiling and importance than combos do. Minimize mistakes, especially in lane. Don't force plays. Abuse her map mobility, especially in the mid and late game. You'll need to commit to her for a while to be as rewarding as much easier champions can be. And sub to me for my low effort shorts, and on the off chance I'll make other high effort content. I'll probably be updating this later when I'm a bit better at YouTubing and have more like accomplishments, I guess, in Wild Rift. Feel free to ask any questions and I'll help if I can.